Did you know that Americans spend an average of 17 minutes waiting for public transportation? That is assuming they have access to it at OLA Luxury. 45% of Americans do and even have. The reality of public transit in the United States is a tale of underfunding, political division, and poor planning that has left millions stranded in what experts call transit deserts. These are areas where getting anywhere to work, to school, or to run essential errands becomes a daily nightmare of unreliable schedules and limited service. Despite spending $79 billion on public transportation in 2019, the nation faces a staggering $176 billion backlog in necessary updates and improvements. This deficit is expected to balloon to $250 billion by 2029, creating a crisis that ultimately falls on the shoulders of riders. As pandemic-related emergency funds dry up, many transit systems are considering fare increases and service reductions just to stay afloat. But how did America, once a pioneer in public transportation, end up here, a road paved with cars? America's relationship with transportation took a dramatic turn in the early 20th century. Before the 1920s, the United States boasted an impressive streetcar system that was the envy of the world. Urban Americans averaged more than 250 streetcar trips annually, moving efficiently through cities on electric trams that ran frequently and reliably. These systems transformed how people lived, worked, and connected with their communities. Then came the automobile, and with it, a systematic dismantling of public transit infrastructure. As inflation drove up operating costs for streetcar companies, city governments turned a blind eye to their requests for assistance. By the end of World War I, a third of transit companies had filed for bankruptcy, creating a vacuum that car manufacturers were eager to fill. The automobile industry successfully reframed cars as a necessity rather than a luxury, pushing the narrative that a modern, progressive city must be designed around driving. The transformation was swift and devastating for public transportation. The political divide. The battle over transportation funding reveals a deep political divide in America. When the 2021 infrastructure bill was being negotiated, Democrats fought for just 20% of the budget to go toward mass transit, a modest ask that Republicans still push to reduce. The funding disparity between highways and public transportation has become emblematic of broader political divisions in the country, reflecting fundamental differences in values and priorities. Research shows that 77% of liberal Americans believe transport policy should shift toward public transit, walking, and cycling, while 53% of conservatives want policies that make driving easier. This division becomes even more pronounced among those with stronger political convictions. Transit advocates face an uphill battle when suburban voters who wield significant influence in state legislatures see little personal benefit in funding systems they rarely use. In most American cities, transit users represent just 1 to 3% of the population, making them less politically powerful than the much larger constituency of drivers. The funding crisis at the heart of America's transit troubles lies a fundamental funding problem. Federal money primarily covers capital cost building, infrastructure, and purchasing vehicles, while leaving operating expenses largely to local governments. This creates a precarious financial situation where transit systems must rely heavily on subsidies to function. Take New York's MTA, the nation's largest transit system. In 2022, rider fares accounted for less than a quarter of its revenue, with taxes and government subsidies making up 40%. The math simply doesn't work. Over the past 5 decades, operating costs have skyrocketed while fare revenue has stagnated. The pandemic dealt another devastating blow, causing ridership to plummet. Despite temporary federal aid, the MTA still reported a $1.9 billion deficit in 2022. This crisis extends nationwide. Philadelphia SEPTA anticipates a $269 million deficit by 2027. Chicago's RTA projects a $730 million gap by 2026. And LA Metro expects to face a $1 billion shortfall by the end of 2026. The vicious cycle. Public transit in America is caught in a destructive feedback loop. Financial shortfalls force transit agencies to cut service hours, reduce frequency, and limit network coverage. These deteriorating services push more riders away, further reducing fare revenue and making it harder to justify public investment. With fewer riders, per-trip costs increase, creating even greater financial strain. A 2022 survey revealed that Americans would use public transit more if it offered reliable service and lower fares. Precisely the improvements that cash-strapped systems cannot afford to make. Mass transit needs mass to be successful, but ridership has been declining since 2015. The pandemic accelerated this trend, and numbers have yet to recover to pre-COVID levels. Without sufficient riders paying fares, transit systems must rely on public subsidies to operate. Unfortunately, the current funding structure in the United States simply does not provide enough support to fill this enormous financial gap. It's perpetuating the cycle of declining service and ridership. The economic advantage, despite its challenges, public transportation remains a powerful economic engine. The American Public Transportation Association estimates that 87% of transit trips directly benefit the local economy. With nearly $42 billion in transit spending flowing to the private sector, for every dollar invested in public transportation, communities see approximately $5 in economic returns, a remarkable multiplier effect that benefits everyone. Even those who never set foot on a bus or train, major companies recognize this value. When Amazon was selecting a location for its second headquarters, it chose an area with robust public transportation. Employers benefit from transit access because it expands their potential workforce, connecting them with talented individuals who might not own cars. For workers, reliable transportation means access to better jobs, healthcare, education, and social connections. Transportation isn't just about moving people. It's about creating opportunities and building communities. Reimagining transit, breaking America's transit crisis, requires bold action. First, we need significant federal investment to improve service quality and attract riders. While the upfront costs are substantial, they would be offset by reduced operating expenses as ridership grows. Second, cities must be redesigned to support effective public transportation. The low-density sprawl of American suburbs makes efficient transit service nearly impossible. We need to create more compact neighborhoods and change zoning laws to allow higher density around transit hubs. Perhaps most importantly, we need to reconceptualize public transportation. As a public space, one of the few remaining environments where people of different backgrounds, classes, genders, races, and ethnicities regularly interact. In an increasingly divided society, these shared spaces foster understanding and community. Even drivers benefit from improved public transportation, as it reduces traffic congestion and makes driving more pleasant for those who choose to remain behind the wheel. Moving forward together, the future of American public transportation hangs in the balance. Will we continue down the path of underfunding and service cuts? Or will we recognize transit as an essential public good worthy of investment? The choices we make today will shape our cities, our economy, and our society for generations to come. By reimagining our transportation systems, we can create more equitable, sustainable, and connected communities where everyone has access to opportunity. Do you think about the state of public transportation in your area? Have you experienced the challenges described in this video? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your experiences and ideas for improvement. If you found this video informative, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to join us at Minecrafted for more explorations of the systems that shape our world. Together, we can advocate for the transportation future we deserve.